To my beautiful and driven wife, let the good times roll.
Lynn and Manfred are millionaire executives who share expensive tastes.
Imagine having $1 million home as a starter home. It's not a bad place to start.
He knew where he wanted to go, and that drive was really important to her.
You worthless, good for nothing.
But underneath all that ambition lies a twisted rage.
It was like she was a totally different person.
The only way she was going to continue to live this life was if she stayed with him.
A rage that ends in a gruesome conspiracy.
Hey, get down!
You can literally take somebody's life in a split second.
We weren't paying any attention to the killer in our midst.
I know what evil is now.
Love may be blind and marriage bliss, but divorce is murder. It's a quiet, peaceful day in suburban California when Lynn Schockner settles down to take a nap. She's newly separated from her husband, Manfred, and is happy to be finally moving on.
911, what's your emergency?
The neighbor dials 911 and says, hey, I think there's a prowler in my neighbor's yard, and the police were there within a few minutes.
Hi.
Hey. How can I help you?
A neighbor called, thought they saw a prowler out back. Have you heard or seen anything, Mrs.
Schockner.
Schockner?
No. It's weird. I didn't see anything or hear anything.
The officers insist on taking a look around.
Okay, well, I can get the key for the back gate and you can check the yard yourselves.
Okay. I believe she was gone for several minutes, and everybody started wondering, boy, it's taken a long time for her to get the key.
Minutes go by before they realize something isn't right. In fact, it couldn't be more wrong. At just 24 years old, Lynn Jika has divorced her first husband and is seeking a fresh start in California.
They were both very young. Not long after they were married, they started facing financial difficulties and other issues. I think Lynn was looking for newer and more exciting venues.
My mom was very excited about life, very excited to be learning about the world and engaging in different ways, very inquisitive and always looking for something new.
When she arrives in Long Beach, she's penniless.
We were never wealthy. And then when our dad died, Lynn was 16, and we became poor very quickly.
No matter, Lynn's got ambition on her side.
Hi, I'm Lynn Jika. I have an interview at 9.
She quickly lands a job at a prestigious aerospace firm with ties to the U.S. military.
Yes, sir. I will have that for you by the end of the day.
Good morning, Lynn.
She showed herself to be intelligent, hardworking, and had a good bit of personal initiative. And then continued to impress her employers. She was vivacious. She was an attractive person.
I haven't seen you here before.
She quickly catches the eye of a coworker, fellow divorcee Manfred Schockner.
I'm Manfred, but you can call me Fred.
I'm Lynn, the new temp.
I should hope not too temporary.
Well, I've been here months, so we'll see.
All bets are on you, Lynn.
They hit it off immediately.
This place needed someone like you, Lynn Jika. I'm glad you're here.
Thanks. I feel so privileged to be here. Everybody is so nice.
Well, that's because we have Princess Leia over there on the team. Delicious.
They take their flirtation up a notch.
It looks lovely on you. I'm glad you like it.
You keep this up, Fred, and I'll think you like me or something.
He began by buying jewelry.
Lynn loves the attention and Manfred's lavish displays of wealth.
Lynn, I think, saw a person who was also very intelligent, older, and I think his wealth shone through, and he wasn't shy about showing it off.
I think stability was a big part. I think it was something she really hadn't had, so big flashy things could have been exciting.
All kidding aside, you're doing a great job, Lynn, and everyone thinks so. And I'm very happy.
Me too.
There is just one thing. Move in with me.
Within a few months, Lynn moves into Manfred's place, and the jet-set courting intensifies.
She was much younger than he was by about 10 years.
Oh, thank goodness.
I asked her if she felt he was a little old for her. She said no, they were very compatible, that they got along well.
They both share a passion for exploring the world.
Lynn reported with excitement that they traveled frequently.
You know, they would go up to San Francisco, or they would go to the Caribbean and various places.
Often they went to Las Vegas.
Just a year after they first meet, they make an impromptu decision to tie the knot.
It transpired on a sailboat in Long Beach Harbor. It was a very small affair.
It looked to me from the pictures to be somewhat intimate. It was very picturesque.
Lynn has never been happier, and the same goes for Manfred.
She met a man who was able to provide for her like she had never been provided for.
But that's not to say she wants him to be the sole provider.
To my beautiful, smart, and driven wife, let the good times roll.
Working-wise, my mom was very driven in her own regard. She really just went for it.
After probably less than 2 years, she had graduated to becoming a senior service liaison.
After a year as husband and wife, Lynn and Manfred are the very picture of success when her brother Mark finally comes to visit.
This is Fred.
So, you're my sister's knight in shining armor.
Oh, I don't know if she needed any rescuing, but she's definitely my queen.
I was able to fly out to LA and finally meet Lynn's husband and see my sister.
Manfred is friendly and attentive to Lynn.
VIP parking for my princess. So she never has to walk very far.
But during his visit, Lynn's brother Mark gets his first glimpse of some questionable behavior.
There was a handicap slot open right in front of the restaurant, and he pulled right in, and he wasn't handicapped.
Lynn appears unconcerned about her husband's unusual parking choice, and the dinner itself goes without a hitch. Until it's time to pay the bill.
Oh, please, let me treat you this time.
He stood up, made a big flourish of picking up the check, and he threw down a 20. And I thought it was a little light because it was good service.
I'm just gonna run to the washroom if you guys wanna meet me outside. I'll see you soon, all right?
I reached into my wallet, pulled out $5 and put it on top of that. So my sister and I walked to the sidewalk in front of the restaurant, and we could see into the restaurant through the glass window. And I noticed Schockner come out of the bathroom, walk by the table, and with just a flick of his hand, he reached down, snatched the $5 off the table, stuffed it in his pocket, and walked out without missing a beat.
What was that, Lynn?
Well, maybe he just didn't like the service as much as you did.
Why a multimillionaire would swipe a $5 tip, or why a healthy person would pose as a handicapped person just for parking privileges.
Come on, he probably thought you were trying to pay for your share. It's not like he doesn't know how to spend money. I mean, look at this.
I mean, I'd never seen anybody do that. I just thought it was very strange.
Psychotherapist Stacy Kaiser and forensic psychologist Dr. Brian Russell are concerned about the couple.
Lynn seems to be making excuses for Manfred in some ways. When you find yourself having to do that, it is cause to step back and wonder, is this something that my family is concerned about that maybe I ought to be taking a closer look at as well?
Manfred is a man with a lot of money, but I know people who have a lot of money who can be really generous in some areas and very cheap in others. So Manfred's whole thing about how he will lavish Lynn with jewelry and then take $5 tip away from a waiter does fit in with some people's way of managing their money. And it's because in his mind, he wants to control who gets his money and who he doesn't, and he believes that his decision is the final decision. Minus the occasional stinginess, who wouldn't want to be with someone like Manfred? He's successful, he's doting. I think a lot of women would completely understand why she chose to be with someone like him.
Eccentricities aside, Lynn is excited about taking the next big step with him. In 1982, Lynn and Manfred purchased their first home together in a posh neighborhood called Bixby Knolls.
He paid cash for the house, so they didn't even have a mortgage to worry about, and they were both making very, very good salaries.
Wow. This is going to be great.
I love it. I'm gonna make this the most beautiful home for you.
And that was their starter home. You can imagine having $1 million home as a starter home is not a bad place to start.
But it will be a terrible place to finish.
Doctors won't let her out. She can't even come home. She can't even take a phone call.
It's an unhappy household.
Newly married millionaire executives Lynn and Manfred Schockner are riding high on money and success.
I think that the ability to afford pretty much whatever they wanted and to do whatever they wanted made it seem like her life was hitting on all cylinders.
Well, would you like me to get another bottle?
I don't know. I don't actually feel that great.
But 2 years after buying their first home in a posh part of Long Beach, California, Lynn falls ill.
She was functional, but she was not the vibrant woman that she was when they were first married. It did seem striking, though, that she did get weaker and continue to get weaker.
Let me take you to a doctor.
It's just rest that I need. Stop fussing.
A string of doctors diagnosed Lynn with ailment after ailment.
Began with carpal tunnel syndrome. She was later diagnosed with fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, migraine headaches.
She just started seeing doctors more often.
It's just like, why is she always ill?
When nothing doctors prescribe seems to help, Manfred grows increasingly concerned.
Fred kept talking about how poorly she was doing and how she was struggling at work because of the illnesses, and they had to go see all these doctors and specialists.
Manfred eventually encourages Lynn to focus full-time on recovering.
She'd be better off resting more and working less. I believe it went from full-time to part-time, and then she couldn't handle that. She took a disability retirement.
But when Lynn's health fails to improve with rest, Manfred changes his tune.
I'm napping.
No, you're not. We're going out. It's for your own good. Can you please just try and enjoy your dinner?
I'm sorry. This is just really hard on me, and
He was concerned for her welfare, and in everything that he did,
we really need to figure out what's going on.
including his loud outbursts and including his violent temper, was just because he was so frustrated because he couldn't do more to help my sister.
With Lynn no longer contributing to the couple's finances, Manfred suggests he take over the couple's joint bank accounts and give Lynn an allowance.
I'll take care of these from now on, okay? You just get better, okay?
His reaction probably would have been to the account of, hey, I'm really good with money. I know what I'm doing. Just let me take care of everything. I've got this. You don't have to worry your head with it.
But as he takes over the finances, Manfred changes, becoming more and more miserly.
He acted as her advocate for disability payments from the company, as well as disability support from the state.
Manfred milks the system for every penny he can get.
Here, this multimillionaire was greedily taking food stamps to feed his family.
He called the shots, and I think she went along with it. I think it was very much just, this is what is expected. This is how I maintain this house. This is how I stay in this life.
And I hardly ever sleep. So it means I'm tired all the time. And when I
Lynn's symptoms persist.
covered in sweat.
She complained about more serious attacks of her various ailments.
Well, you know, I'm sweating all the time, and I have these horrible migraines. It just like pierce.
I'm just gonna skip to the washroom.
So too does Manfred's stinginess.
They're like knives in my temples and behind my eyes, and
Is he skipping out on the bill as well?
We went out to a nice waterfront seafood restaurant for a high-end meal. He worked his way to the bathroom just before the check came.
that was embarrassing, Fred.
Stop it already. So your brother paid for a meal. What is the big deal?
We've treated him in the past.
What does that mean, that he owes us? We have money, Fred.
You know nothing about money and how to save.
Oh, so you saved by scamming my brother.
Don't worry your little head about it.
As the years go by, Lynn doesn't get better. In fact, she gets worse.
Late March, Schockner called me.
Hello. Hey, Mark. We're at the hospital. Lynn's not doing well.
I said, what happened? She said, well, she had a nervous breakdown.
She'll be here for a while.
Doctors won't let her out. She can't even come home. She can't even take a phone call. She's just been under so much stress and strain.
Lynn is confined to the hospital for several weeks, but eventually she does recover. At her doctor's urging, Lynn seeks counseling, and Manfred joins her. And the results of couples therapy are nearly instantaneous.
That went well.
Did.
It was so much of him trying to show he was a different man, that the therapy had worked, that he was excited to be here.
Oh, I almost forgot.
He would buy her pendants, necklaces, rings, watches.
Their relationship improves, to the point where, to the couple's great surprise, Lynn learns she is pregnant. And after 11 years of marriage, Lynn and Manfred have a child together, Charlie. It's the happiest they've been in years.
Welcome home, son.
I definitely think having a son was an ideal thing for my father. I think that was always something he wanted, something he'd be very proud to talk about.
It's just the three of us from now on. You, me, and Charlie.
Probably as soon as Charlie drew his first breath, Lynn lived for her son.
I think Charlie was kind of a bridge for the marriage.
When you look at a couple like Lynn and Manfred and the situation that they've been in, how bad their relationship has been, there is some hope, because bringing a baby in the world can be a great bonding experience. That said, it will only distract them from their underlying issues. And so these two are really gonna have to be vigilant about working on their issues together while enjoying the birth of a new child.
I do think, though, that some couples believe once they get pregnant, the child will fix whatever problems there were in the marriage, and I think that that is almost never the case. So what I would have said to them at this time is, the fact that you are now going to be parents is all the more reason to be in therapy, because if the marriage doesn't work out now, it isn't just about the two of you, it's about the two of you and your child.
But instead of standing united, Charlie gives Lynn and Manfred something new to fight about.
I asked you yesterday to clean this up. Why is it not done? Huh? What is wrong with you? Huh? Hey, I'm talking to you.
Fred, what are you doing? Are you okay?
They had an argument at least every day. The arguments would always be about trivial stuff.
But they often seem to come back to one thing: money.
We weren't allowed to spend money on clothing. I hadn't been to a department store or anything until I was 12, because perfectly good clothes were found at Goodwill.
This is not the life that Lynn signed up for.
That's the thing, she did marry a millionaire. He was just very selective in what he wanted to spend on her and when he wanted to spend it.
How was your shopping trip?
Don't ask me that. You know how it went.
What does that mean?
That means that you wear expensive suits while you dress your son in rags.
He's only 10. He doesn't need new clothes.
Oh, he doesn't need to look like a homeless kid either. I don't know how much more of this I can take.
Hey! It is my money. And while you are under my roof, you will spend it the way I tell you to. You worthless, good for nothing.
They were always screaming. I mean, money was always a topic.
The only question is, which of their fights will be their last?
He was asking for a considerable amount of his money.
That's when I got angry.
After more than 20 years of marriage, tension in the Schockner household is out of control. Manfred and Lynn can't seem to agree on anything. Then, Lynn's mother dies. Lynn is devastated and leans on her brother Mark.
Glad you're here.
It was a tough time for her when she lost her mother, a very tough period for her.
But beyond the sorrow lies resentment.
Geez, Lynn, I can't believe you're still driving this lemon.
She had like a 1988 sedan or something with about 200,000 miles on it.
It was not in very good shape.
Why don't you buy a used car, a nice used car?
Fred thinks buying a new car is a waste of money.
The thing is, Lynn's mother left her $70,000.
How come Fred gets to make the decisions around here?
And that's when I got angry. Lynn, you have $70,000. And I said, what in the hell is wrong with you? This is your money. This is Mom's money. How can you even consider letting him tell you what to do with it? And she said, well, it's just the way things worked out. And I realized that was their life.
But eventually, Lynn realizes it's high time to take control.
Charlie, what if you and me didn't live with Dad anymore?
Really? Can we go now?
Soon, but it has to be our little secret. Okay, if we tell Dad, he'll get really mad.
My first thing is, we can do that? That's so cool. Why don't we go now?
Lynn thinks the idea of divorce will trigger Manfred's temper, so she figures out her options in secret.
She wanted what was fair and applicable under California divorce statutes. No more, no less.
I want to leave my husband. So how do I go about doing it?
She wanted to have her life back, so with that, she was going for half of what was hers and really splitting up the household evenly and getting what she deserved.
Finally, she's ready to make her move.
Fred, we need to talk. I want a divorce.
What? Wait.
I want a divorce.
Listen, before you start making any big decisions, just give me another chance. Okay, let's go away together.
He really kind of started to understand that she was really serious about this time. It wasn't a joke, it wasn't a threat, it was a reality.
Okay, Fred. If that's what you want.
Lynn reluctantly goes along with Manfred. He takes Lynn and Charlie to San Francisco on an epic spending spree and blows hundreds of thousands of dollars on jewelry and rare ivory artifacts.
Just basically said you can have whatever you want.
I can't imagine a shopping trip like that. It was binge shopping. I clearly think he was trying to shower her with gifts and show her that, you know, in a sense, that was the only way she was going to continue to live this life of gifts and fine things was if she stayed with him.
I think that for Manfred, the use of his money has worked to serve in a very powerful way. And he knows that the way that he was able to lure Lynn in the beginning was by lavishing her with gifts. He's trying to say to her, I'm usually really tight about money, but I love you so much and I want you back so much that this purchase and shopping spree is unlimited.
I'm worried about the couple at this point because I see Manfred operating out of fear, apparently. Fear of losing her, and so he's willing to go into a place that we know isn't comfortable for him, parting with money as a way of trying to hang on to her.
Despite the extravagant gesture, Lynn can no longer be bought.
Even though he was giving her all these expensive gifts, there was no way she was going to stay.
Finally get my life back.
She was determined to go at that point.
Should have done this a long time ago, Manfred.
Whatever's best for Charlie.
Manfred goes to stay with his brother and tries to get over his grief at the gym with his new friend, Frank.
Oh, Frank. She's gonna take everything I have.
That's rough, bro. Anything I can do to help?
Fred Schockner apparently would go to the gym and just spend hours at the gym. Got to know and struck up a friendship with Frank Jaramillo.
Meanwhile, Lynn seems to be thriving.
It was like pulling a bucket off a plant. Charlie was happy. Lynn was relieved. She was easygoing.
Mom? You're making a mess.
So what? It's our mess.
She had a new life. She was excited, she was ready to go. Everything was anew. A very different life than what we ever had before. She was just so much more life-driven, so much more excited. It was like she was a totally different person.
Not only does the single life suit her, but she learns she can expect to receive around $2 million once the divorce is finalized.
So, do you like it?
You got rid of your old clunker.
No, not yet. It's a rental, but do you like it?
At that point, it was this excitement of we're finally free of him.
911, what's your emergency?
They may be free of Manfred, but not of trouble.
Hi.
Hi. How can I help you?
A neighbor called, thought they saw a prowler out back. Have you heard or seen anything, Mrs.
Schockner.
The police were there within a few minutes, front and back, which is common practice. You kind of want to cut off the area you came in from and pull out front to make contact with the homeowner.
No, that's weird. I didn't see anything or hear anything, and I'm a light sleeper, so.
The cops want to check out the property.
Okay, well, I can get the key for the back gate, and you can check the yard yourself.
She seemed to be incredulous and questioning.
Okay.
Believe she was gone for several minutes, and everybody started wondering, boy, it's taken a long time for her to get the key.
The thing is, Lynn won't ever get the key.
The officers conveyed to me their hurt, their shock.
I just started crying. I was an emotional wreck.
There might be a prowler lurking in the backyard of the house Lynn Schockner shared with her estranged husband, Manfred, and the police are waiting to check it out.
In the back alley said they saw something. They have somebody coming over the back fence.
Hey, get down!
They're commanding him to get down on the ground, put your hands where we can see him, make sure he has no weapons, and he refuses.
Suspect on the run. Pursuit in progress.
Schockner? Schockner?
You know, they're running through their house yelling her name.
Mrs. Schockner?
He didn't comply with their commands, and they actually had to tase him to put him to the ground and use enough force necessary to handcuff him.
The prowler is quickly identified as a petty criminal named Nick Harvey. And when he is searched, police discover he has a bag of Lynn's jewelry and a bloody knife.
They found her in the back porch with her throat cut.
Lynn Schockner has been killed in cold blood, within feet of the Long Beach PD.
The officers conveyed to me their hurt, their shock.
These are my brother officers, but they messed up.
It was pretty much a botched burglary. Accidentally stabbed her to death because he panicked, and when she came out the back, he only used the words, he didn't mean to kill her.
Lynn's loved ones struggle to cope with this senseless tragedy.
So I said, in a car accident? No, she was murdered. At the time, it's just so like stepping off a cliff. I mean, your stomach is fluttering for no reason. You feel like there's nothing but, you know, a hard landing.
Am I in trouble?
That landing is even harder for 14-year-old Charlie, who gets the news at school.
It's quiet for a second. I'm like, well, why am I here? I'm extremely nervous. Well, there's been an incident and your mother was murdered this morning. Long pause. Really silent. Oof. I remember I was shaking and I couldn't even get the words out. I just started crying. I was an emotional wreck. They had called Manfred to come pick me up.
Let's go home, son.
And he arrives downcast and in tears. That was that moment where it really seemed a little bit more real and uneasy. I think the hardest thing was the fact that I guess my safety net, my biggest supporter, my champion, was gone.
For the family to hear that Lynn was killed by what seems like a random act of violence is confusing. I mean, it makes you wonder, like, why her? And you finally feel like she's free and she's got this new lease on life, and it's just not fair.
It must have been devastating for Lynn's family to find out that just as she seemed to be getting out of her marriage with Manfred and getting ready to move on with her life as a single mom with financial resources finally, this tragedy befalls her.
The only consolation is that police have the perpetrator in custody. There, they make a curious discovery.
You're not from around here, are you?
He came from Port Hueneme, and that's close to 100 miles away. You don't come to the city of Long Beach from another area so far away to do a burglary.
Police find something else that doesn't quite add up.
We open up the jewelry bag and we put it, and it's obviously costume jewelry.
You're not much of a thief either.
Well, I had to work fast, so.
As any husband knows, when you buy your wife jewelry, you buy your wife good jewelry. That was not good jewelry. Both my partner and I said, yeah, this is so wrong. There's a lot more to it.
Give me the phone records on this guy. He's not telling us everything. This doesn't feel like a robbery.
Police believe Nick Harvey must have some personal connection to Lynn Schockner.
I had other detectives working with me when we put them on task of bank records and cell phone records and cell phone sites.
I know what happened. We're worried about Nick.
But nothing will prepare them for what they find.
He's scribbling something on a notepad, and it says, "Are you wired?"
This is all because of you.
Lynn Schockner has been killed, murdered by an intruder. the victim of a robbery gone wrong, with the police right on her doorstep. But when they learn the burglars stole only costume jewelry, the police suspect there's more to the story. They immediately set out to find a connection between Lynn and her killer, Nick Harvey. Phone records provide police with the missing link. Not between Lynn and Harvey, but between him and Frank Jaramillo, Manfred's gym buddy.
Oh, Frank. She's gonna take everything I have. Anything I can do to help?
And at that point, we had a connection.
Police confront Nick Harvey with this evidence.
It says right here you made multiple phone calls to Mr. Jaramillo.
And at that point, you know, it was kind of like, damn, you guys are good. You got me.
Yeah. Yeah, Frank hired me to do it.
He literally just took this gruesome-looking push blade and swiped her across the neck with it, and she was pretty much dead within a few seconds.
It'll take more than Nick Harvey's word to get a conviction. The cops need Frank. So Officer Chris Nelson goes undercover, pretending to be Nick Harvey's uncle.
I dreamt up this Uncle John that was sent down from the Bay Area by Nick's mother to see what the hell's going on. And
Hey, Frank. I'm Nick's uncle. I know what happened. We're worried about Nick.
Nick is getting a lot of heat. He's not happy.
Look, I don't really know Nick that well.
Nick says he's gonna talk
If he doesn't get more money.
I'm gonna take care of it. Don't worry about it.
I had this conversation with Frank that I can keep them quiet. I wanted to create an environment where they needed me.
The plan works.
Frank calls me the next day and says, hey, you know, let's meet. I've got some money for you. He was nervous.
There's more coming.
Thanks, man. Nick's gonna appreciate this.
He goes, hey, I've got to get going, but I have, and he hands me $1,000. He goes, I'll get more for you later.
But there is no later.
You're going to jail for the rest of your life. Do you understand that?
As soon as Frank hands over the money, he seals his fate.
He's pretty much done at this point.
Frank points the finger at someone else.
He's the one that's behind it all. Manfred Schockner.
Manfred actually given Frank Jaramillo $25,000 to find someone to kill his wife. Well, Frank then paid Nick Harvey only $5,000 to do the murder.
Detectives are still one step away from the evil plot's mastermind, so they convince Frank to wire up and meet with the money man, Manfred Schockner.
You're the one that hired me. And this is all because of you. This is your fault for doing this.
You know, you and I would not be sitting here if you didn't want Lynn killed. You know that.
He got up to leave and walk away, but Frank kept pushing. No, man, this is your fault. You need to take responsibility for this.
You have to understand, we would not be in this position.
And Frank kept pushing it and kept pushing it. At which point, you know, Fred said, okay, this is not our fault to worry about. This is Nick's fault for being sloppy. You know, sloppy Nick.
That's so true. And if it hasn't been sloppy on Nick's part.
They were cheering in the van outside when they heard him finally say Nick was sloppy.
Finally, police have what they need. Verbal confirmation that Manfred knew what was going on.
The next morning, we got an arrest warrant for him and a search warrant for his house, and that's where we made the arrest.
Manfred's motive? It was cheaper to kill his wife than divorce her.
She was asking for a considerable amount of his money.
Manfred killed Lynn because he cared more about money than he cared about her.
The key personality trait of Manfred is narcissism. And from narcissism springs entitlement, and from entitlement springs sociopathic behavior. Sociopathic behavior is really just somebody saying, I am owed things by others and I'm going to take those things.
The family has to be looking at themselves, wondering, how did we miss this?
There's sort of a special sort of nausea that people feel when they realize that they were breaking bread with the enemy.
It's a tremendous betrayal. It is one of the coldest, most heartless things that a person could do.
Nick Harvey, Frank Jaramillo, and Manfred Schockner are each convicted of first-degree murder and are sentenced to life without the possibility of parole.
I was exhilarated to find out that my father was found guilty. It was sadly one of the best moments in a long time. It was a wonderful feeling to know that justice had been delivered.
If I saw him walking down the street, I'd beat him with my own hands, and if that didn't work, I'd get a weapon. I have no qualms about dealing with Schockner.
I despised him for a whole host of reasons. You know, here he'd taken Lynn's life. He had robbed Charlie of his mother. It was just despicable.
Charlie moves in with Lynn's brother Mark and his wife Susan.
They made every arrangement, took me in with more than open arms, just incredibly gracious, and they're my parents. They really are.
But it doesn't erase the pain of losing his mother.
When my mom died, I lost everything in my life. I lost my best friend, I lost my biggest supporter, my cheerleader, I lost my mom.